Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We're all looking forward to the Justice League movie, but what if the Justice League movie tanks? Now, we're all hoping that it won't, and there's definitely good reason to be optimistic that it won't. Rumor has it that the movie is still a bit of a mess, but it's still fixable. So there's a very good chance that this will end up being a fantastic movie, but what if it's not? What if it's the same kind of divisive movie that Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Suicide Squad was? What is Warner Brothers going to do then? What will it mean for this DC universe? Well, in true internet armchair critic style of someone who's talking about something they have absolutely no experience in but wants to pretend like they're some kind of expert, here are my ideas about what Warner Brothers could do in this worst case scenario of Justice League tanking. To be honest, this would probably be their best option, yet it's also the option that they are least likely to go with. Just drop it all together and just come back in 10 years, 15 years time, and just start again. That probably would be the best thing they could do in the event of Justice League tanking. But of course, is Warner Brothers going to give up all of that potential money? And we know everybody wants to build a franchise, and they're still trying to compete with Marvel, so even though this might be the best option, of course they're not going to do it. And I do suspect that Ben Affleck sort of backing away from the Batman solo movie and getting another director and all that is him trying to distance himself just in case Justice League tanks, he can leave. That's what I suspect. Hello darkness, my old friend. I don't want to get hit with copyright again, so I'll sing over this music so the copyright robots don't detect it. And this music that would otherwise make me lose monetization will still remain. This is the sound of copyright approved audio. Conversely, this seems the most likely option that Warner Brothers would go for, and it's also the worst thing they could possibly do is reboot the universe. We all saw how badly that worked out with Sony when they tried to reboot Spider-Man so soon after Spider-Man 3. It didn't work out well for them. It won't work out well for Warner Brothers if they try to reboot the whole universe again. And could you imagine after casting a new Superman, a new Batman, a new Wonder Woman? Oh, it'll be the worst thing. They might try to do like a soft reboot, sort of a soft reboot within this universe, but the only way you can really do that is kind of doing a timeline reset, sort of like what the X-Men franchise did a couple of times. While that kind of solves the problem, it creates so many other problems, because for newbies and regular moviegoers who don't follow all this movie news like the rest of us do, they just get really confused. There are a lot of people who are still trying to figure out why we've had so many Spider-Mans over the last few years. They could have used certain storylines like the death of Superman to sort of do a soft reboot within the universe. Superman dies, so everyone else had to sort of find a new place in the new order of things, but of course they've now already done that, so they can't use it. So a soft reboot also seems rather difficult to do. Here's the option that I personally would like to see them go with. And it's not resetting the timeline, it's not resetting the continuity, it's resetting the tone. Here's what I'm thinking. Every franchise is just one good movie away from getting back on track again. Just one good movie, that's all it really takes. And if they did kind of like an Iron Man thing, in that Iron Man was a character not too many people knew about, so the general public didn't have any preconceived expectations, so it created the opportunity for them to knock it out of the park. If DC could do a similar thing with a similar character, it could reset the tone of the entire universe. And I think the perfect character to focus on and movie to make, if Justice League tanks after it, that could reset the tone of the entire universe, would be one of my favorite characters in the DC universe, which is Martian Manhunter. He's so wacky, he's so out there, and he's not really well known amongst the general population. A lot of younger people know him from his portrayal in the animated series. Some people also know him from the Supergirl TV series, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't have him in movies just because he's in the TV series. I mean, Flash has a TV series and they're still putting him in the movies, so that shouldn't be a problem. But apart from that, not many people know him, but he'd be a great character to focus on because his story is very interesting and intriguing in itself, but most importantly, his storyline intersects with the origins of certain other characters. So here's his story. His story is Martian Manhunter was like a cop on Mars, which of course was a Martian civilization. And after that civilization was wiped out by this telepathic virus, he was pretty much alone on the planet for quite a long time, until Jor-El from Krypton, Superman's father, decided to try and help Jon Jones out and give him a new purpose. A bunch of criminals had escaped from Krypton, so he asked Martian Manhunter if he could become a Manhunter again and track these guys down, bring them back and lock them up in the Phantom Zone. And later on, when Krypton exploded, a big part of the reason that Jor-El sent his son to Earth was because he knew Martian Manhunter was already living on Earth, integrated into human society, looking like a human because he can shapeshift. So it was actually Jor-El's intention that Martian Manhunter would be the one to raise Superman on Earth. And when the shuttle actually landed on Earth, Martian Manhunter was the first one there. But just a few seconds after he arrived at the shuttle, the Kents came driving down the road. Martian Manhunter turned invisible, and then he followed the Kents back to their house, and he actually stayed there in the house with them, being invisible and intangible, just observing the Kents with Clark so that he could make sure they were good people. And once he was satisfied, he was okay to leave. But he still continued to mentor Clark indirectly from the sidelines. Sometimes he'd assume the role of like a farmhand who was working on the Kent's farm for a while. Sometimes he's assumed the role of a teacher, one of Clark's teachers in school. He's always been involved in his life in different areas, guiding him from the sidelines. So you see that by doing a Martian Manhunter movie, that would also allow you to go back and sort of reshape the character of Superman, but without having to reboot anything. You can reset the tone. And since Martian Manhunter did have connections with Krypton, if they wanted to include that maybe he had some kind of diplomatic connections to like the Amazons, you could also connect him to Wonder Woman and do the same thing for her. And if they really wanted to change things around, Martian Manhunter did spend a lot of his time as a detective using a lot of his telepathy to catch criminals.
Who are you?
My name is Jon Jones. I'm a detective, just like you, Bruce. I'm one of the good guys.
So I suppose they could make it that Commissioner Gordon was actually Martian Manhunter, because Commissioner Gordon had a big hand in sort of shaping the character of Batman in the way he would be a vigilante. So you could also redefine the character of Batman through this. And since J.K. Simmons has been cast to play Commissioner Gordon, that would also mean J.K. Simmons is playing Martian Manhunter, which would be really good casting. If Justice League tanks, Martian Manhunter could be a way to set everything back on track. In that way, you could retell the origins of the three main members of the Justice League, in effect resetting the tone of the entire universe without having to do a reboot, without having to mess around with the timeline, and you get a chance to tell a new story, a fresh start with a new character that people had never heard of before. And especially after the events in Justice League, I'm assuming that will have really sort of wiped the slate clean within this fictional universe. I'm assuming at the end of Justice League, after they've defeated Steppenwolf or Darkseid or whoever, that the whole world views them as heroes now, and the Justice League is a fully formed organization. So it would like be a fresh start. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think that would be a good way to sort of reclaim the DC universe if Justice League tanks? Or do you think it would just be better to just drop it entirely?